Good afternoon, everyone. This is Guildhall News Agency interview, and I'm very delighted to introduce you today an honorable member of German Bundestag, the representative of CDU-CSU political party, Mr. Tobias Winkler. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to Kiev.
Sir, first, I would like to say thank you from all the Ukrainians to all the German people for all the aid you have provided us with. It's very important for us, so thank you.
I think we have to be grateful because we give you just our support. You give your lives for this fight, for the fight for European values. You are in at the front line, and it's the minimum from our side to give you all the support we can.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Tobias, during our previous interview, we've been discussing the reasons that pretended Chancellor Scholz from that decision to provide Ukraine with heavy weaponry, with Leopard 2 heavy tanks in particular. The decision was made. I would like to ask you, what were the reasons for this decision? Is it a result of fundamental transformations within the German government policy, or maybe it has become as a result of any other factors?
It's a result more or less of the pressure that came from all sides finally. So this is on one hand the pressure on the chancellor himself, but on the other side, for him it's a good moment to give the deliveries free, as he can stand with his own party, with his own supporters. He can say, you see, all demanded it. I stand a long time without, but now I finally have to decide. So we started in April. There was a decision in the Bundestag with heavy weapons. It was not directly Leopard 2, and we did a lot, and we succeeded in some parts. Think about Howitzer 2000. And in summer, we came up with the idea to at least to prepare the delivery of Leopard 2 and maybe to find alliances in Europe with countries who have this tank. And then it took around 4 months to keep the pressure such as high. And you saw Rammstein on Friday before the decision. And then he was not in the position anymore to say no. Also for his supporters, and they now understand him, so he didn't lose. If he would have decided in such way in October, it would have been good for you. He would have got our support, but not the supporters still from his not the support from his supporters from his party. So therefore he needed time to convince them, and now they got convinced from this pressure from all sides.
You've definitely done a tremendous job, and we appreciate that. Sir, at the same time, what we see today, the issue is that those tanks could appear in Ukraine late. So not only, as it says, because of technical issues, but also because of some political and maybe bureaucracy issues. I would like to ask you, sir, are there any options to provide us with those tanks faster?
This is exactly what we knew already before, that after the decision it will take time, and therefore we urged to have this decision as early as possible. When we would have taken this decision in October, we wouldn't have delivered in October, but we would have prepared it. And this is now the problem, that we are late. As always, we demand as opposition, we are little and late. And if you say now that there are some bureaucratic obstacles, I think this can be pushed away. But in fact, all our information is that there are technical aspects, that the first delivery may be end of March. We hope earlier, and we will put the pressure high to not or to overwind bureaucratic obstacles, but also technical ones. And now the decision is taken. Now we have to do our job. But this, if the decision would have taken earlier, we would have made the preparation for it. Now we start the preparation, and we hope be able to deliver as soon as possible, as we know that a massive offensive by Russian troops are coming up in next weeks.
Thank you, sir. Another interesting situation is within the German society. It's about German public opinion towards military aid to Ukraine issue. We know and see here in Ukraine that absolute majority of German society is for Ukraine, supportive to Ukraine, supportive to our victory in this war. At the same time, we saw those last researches where we saw 43% which opposes providing Ukraine with Leopard 2 tanks. In Ukraine, for us to stop providing us with military aid is equal to be defeated. So could you please explain us what are the reasons, what is the ground for these 43% opinion?
I think public opinion also is a result of political leadership. If you have a chancellor at the top who leads in a convincing way the people in a direction and who explains what he does and why he does it, then people are likely to follow. Not 100%, but much more than we have. And we see that figures are turning right after the decision, because the decision was the first time when he explained his politics after months. So even if you are reluctant, you have to explain why. And communication is unfortunately a huge problem in the German government. So it's the communication between Bundestag and government, but also communication between the chancellor or the government and the people. So there's a lack of communication. And in my opinion, political leadership also means to give your people a direction. And with the Zeitenwende speech he delivered, as you see, he put the people on track. But then it took too long to explain the next steps. And therefore, we have these figures you mentioned, and I'm sure it's also on him. Not only we do our share, but it's also on him to explain his policy, and then he can get much more people, many more behind him and behind his decision. And so I think that figures will now turn around towards more support and more people who are fine with this or even stand behind this decision.
You know, sir, it's quite important because the indicators shows and a number of authoritative analysts say that this war is an all-out war, is a long-term conflict. All of us will wish to end it as soon as it possible. We wish to overcome actually as soon as it possible. But the challenge is the challenge. And in this long-term conflict, it is very important for us to keep this positive trend within the German society to support Ukraine with heavy weaponry, you know. And I would like to ask you, what are the factors which affect, which influence this positive trend within the German society to keep and to get more people who are supportive to provide Ukraine with heavy weaponry, with tanks, in particular with jets later?
So first of all, it's not on you to convince us. It's on us to convince our people. So it's not a demand for you. You have brave fighters, as I say. You fight for democracy, for European values. You give your lives for that. So this is much more that people can demand from you. But to have some, as we are also as politicians in a practical manner, from Deputy Minister Melnik, a tweet the day we have the decision of Leopard 2, that now we need airplanes, was not a good timing. This was really not a good timing. We can fully understand the demand for that. And maybe there is an option to do so. not with, he didn't ask for Eurofighters, he didn't ask for Germans, but he did it in German, and he knows about his reputation in Germany. So this
It's
is
very
really,
interesting.
this is really, unfortunately, I have to say, not helpful. Even I can fully understand his demand. It was a bad timing. It was a bad timing for us as opposition, because we tried to give our utmost to support him. And it was not a good timing for Olaf Scholz, who had so many people behind, because this is something which needs another explanation, which needs another discussion in German society. And we cannot start, even the first step or the second step is not decided to immediately start to explain the third step. Yeah. And so we need, democracies unfortunately need much more time to explain, to convince the people. And you, therefore, not as much time as we needed for Leopard 2, but you cannot start immediately the day the decision was taken with the next discussion. This is just one example how it should not work. On the other side, as I said, it's our job, and we are, as you see, unfortunately, a little bit too late and too little, but we deliver. And Germany, as you know, is a big supporter of Ukraine in practical terms. Our reputation is not the best, but if you really measure what comes and what we deliver, it's a very supportful role we play, and we will continue and we will stay on your side. And but it's more on us. Give us some time to convince our people, our government,
Absolutely,
and our majority, and then we will succeed on.
You know, sir, what is also very important for us here in Ukraine is to understand what is the situation within the German government. I mean, did you see any researches or something how this reluctant position affected Chancellor Scholz in person? I mean, on a political field in Germany.
I have the impression he's a guy, when you put pressure on him, then he totally blocks. Therefore, he was not able to take the decision in Ramstein. He needed his own moment. So it was only 2 or 3 days after that. But when everybody puts pressure on him, then he blocks totally. And then he says, no, I will find my personal timing. This is a little bit like I now see him, or even
Very
if I'm closer to him. Therefore, we have to keep always the balance between convincing, time, pressure, and so it's a little bit psychology, or it's on psychology, how to deal with that topics.
It's not an easy thing
so
to deal with people, especially with politicians, right?
Yeah, and that's only a personal view from my side, but it's I think it's been proved several times by decision he took. Only when he has a timing that he a little bit can say, this is my timing, and not, I'm not doing a favor for you. I do it because now I am convinced, and now it's time to decide.
It's very important, actually, and useful information, because it's the need to understand not only for the German politicians, but also for the Ukrainian officials who actually negotiate with German politicians. So this is very important to understand this specific things, actually, about the people's mentality, about chancellor mentality in this particular situation. So thank you for this explanation, and usually you wish us to stay strong. I would like to wish you to stay strong as well, negotiating with the German society, because we really need that vice pressure, keeping on chancellor, and good negotiation with German society as well. But sir, with my one or two last questions, I would like to ask a more like international question. It's about situation within NATO. We know that NATO is first like economic and military union based on the principle of unity. At the same time, we see sort of misunderstandings between various NATO members. For instance, between Turkey and Greece, we saw actually that Turkish position blocking Sweden to NATO integration process. We remember Hungarian position blocking actually aid to Ukraine. So maybe these are three good examples to be mentioned right now. So I would like to ask, what is the ground for these misunderstandings? Are they the result of fundamental things within NATO, or maybe it's just the political situation we have today affect those relations in such a way? What are the reasons for those misunderstandings, and could they be solved?
I think they shouldn't be overestimated. Of course, if you see it now with the blockade of Sweden, I can remember, and the disputes you mentioned between Turkey and Greece and so on, these are small battlefields. It's part of the political game, but you see when you need NATO, they are together, even with Hungary. Hungary has a huge problem with being in between. They try not to be European, a little bit more pro-Russian right now. But when it comes to NATO and it comes to military support, they are not in a position to block it because they know when it's really hard times, they can rely on that. And so they are not in the position to block it. So I think the strength of NATO always comes up when it gets really hard times. And if it's not too severe, then all these battles, it's a battlefield for political games and not for so you shouldn't overestimate it. As we can we have these problems or these little issues since years, and it also comes up in our times. But when you see the support and the position about Ukraine, they are totally in line.
You know, sir, I would like to agree here that it should not be overestimated, right? And I remember those actually protest in Sweden when Quran was burned actually near the Turkish embassy. You remember that, and there
Yeah.
were a number actually of analysts and the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Finland who said that there are indicators that it was a kind of a Russian influence on those people. So regarding what you've said, that actually it should not be overestimated, did you mention any attempts from the Russian side to play and to push on those buttons, actually trying to affect NATO, to divide NATO or something like that?
Of course, this is a part of the hybrid war of Russia. We see it very strong in Hungary that time. We see it also with the cyber attacks in Germany and in other countries. So this is we are attacked with cyber attacks from Russia all the times, and to divide NATO, to divide European Union, this is part of their strategy, of course. But until now, this cannot harm, and this is, I think, one of the misperceptions Putin has when he invaded Ukraine, that he thought that we would never stand so close together as we are in European Union and NATO, and against this bloc, he has, I hope, sooner as later, that he sees he has no chance to win.
Ukraine is quite actually, so we know very well what Russian hybrid aggression is. So probably Ukraine and Germany and NATO could, you know, cooperate somehow on that field to counteract those Russian hybrid activities. I wish so. What would you say?
Unfortunately, our digital abilities are not the best. So maybe we can get the support from Estonia and Latvia, Lithuania, which are the most digitalized countries in the world, as we also need some lessons to get better. But of course, we have also to cooperate on that field, on that hybrid war field.
To overcome and to win together. Sir,
Yeah.
I really appreciate your honest and sober assessment and your actual responses to my questions. And I'm grateful for sharing your time with us. And we, as I've mentioned it before, wish you, being a German opposition, at least now, to stay strong and to keep fighting with us together.
Thank you very much. We are honored to stay in this fight at your side. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, sir. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.